Hey everyone, welcome to our research highlight for May 2025. My name is Claire McLean. I'm a physical therapist here at Rogue Physical Therapy and Wellness, and I'm very passionate about research and sharing the research that exists with people who have Parkinson's so you can see why we're recommending that you do what we recommend when it comes to high intensity exercise or intervals or cardio workouts or other things. And so this month, we are going to be talking about this article titled Interval Training Induced Alleviation of Rigidity and Hypertonia in Patients with Parkinson's Disease is accompanied by increased basal serum brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I wanted to talk about this article this month because last month we talked about the Alberts article on forced use, where they showed that, yes, high intensity exercise is good, getting your heart rate up is good, but that especially when people were on a bike, a stationary bike, they showed that when people were pedaling faster, there were more benefits than when people were pedaling at a self-selected speed. And so now with that knowledge, even though the title of that article was forced use, you don't have to be forced to do that. You get to choose to do high intensity exercise and try to pedal at a faster pace. This article, it's kind of like a follow-up in terms of how I think about doing exercise using a stationary bike. Yes, we know we want to pedal at a higher rate. You might do steady state at that higher rate of pedaling between 80 to 90 RPMs, or what this article talks about is how interval training is a great option as well. So first off, I do want to show, if you take the title, I can copy and paste because I have it in front of me. But if you're watching this video, you could pull up a window and type in a Google search, interval training induced alleviation of rigidity. You don't even have to put in the whole title. But if you pull it up on Google and search the beginning, it's going to pull up this research article. You can double check, make sure it's the correct one. Okay, it was published in 2015. The lead article was Maruziak, and this article is available free. So if you want to download it to read the whole article or to print a copy to share with your neurologist, I'll talk through as I do this. So full text links over here, we click on it, and then we want, in most cases, we want the PDF. If you scroll down, it has all the information here. So this is one place that you could look at it. But in most cases, if you click the PDF, that's going to be the most kind of reader and printer friendly version of the article. And then you can download or print this article to have the copy for yourself. So this is another one. I really appreciate it when I'm able to highlight articles that are available free full text so that people can read the whole thing or download and give it to their doctor if they want to. Because can't read the whole thing. I try to keep these videos concise, and I'm not very good at that. But I try, and so I'm not going to read the whole article. We are going to highlight that they're doing cycling for research. There were only 11 people in this study, so it's not a huge study. They had mild to moderate Parkinson's. They underwent 8 weeks of interval training. They did 3 sessions a week for 1 hour. There was a 10-minute warm-up, 40 minutes of interval exercise, and a 10-minute cool down. So whenever we see research coming out about exercise, we want to see, what did people do? Were they exercising 1 time a week, 7 times a week? Most of the time it's 3 to 4 times a week, spoiler alert, but we want to confirm that. And then we want to see, how long did people exercise for? So this gives us a good kind of goal to work towards. What they showed in terms of results is that training resulted in a decrease in rigidity. They used the UPDRS measurement of Parkinson's symptoms to determine that. They also showed an increase in the level of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which you may have also heard of, called BDNF. And one of the simplest ways BDNF is described is that it's kind of a fertilizer for the brain. So it is nutritious for our brain. We can produce it. We may get it from outside sources, but it helps our brain be healthier. And this is one of the treatments that is being researched to look at how much it could help people with Parkinson's. Is, can we, inject or somehow insert BDNF into the brain to help the brain be healthier? Well, guess what? You have exercise as an option for something that you can do now to help you increase your BDNF levels. Their conclusion from just this abstract here is that training induced alleviation of Parkinsonian rigidity and muscle tone decrease may be associated with neuroplastic changes caused by a training-induced increase in the level of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So they're saying this improvement in symptoms could be correlated to the increase in BDNF that happened in this study. Whether, chicken or the egg, we kind of don't know exactly what the mechanisms are with this research, but it's good to see a correlation, and it's exciting to see positive brain changes. That's kind of the take-home message from this article. So they have an introduction, which is a really great introduction. They basically talk about Albert's article and how this was really exciting to see these positive changes from this research. They're kind of highlighting multiple research studies. They thought, though, would it be more interesting to do interval training for people than to do continuous training? People may be able to push themselves to go a little bit faster if they only have to do it for periods of time. And just as a workout, it's a little bit more interesting to do intervals and go back and forth between different speeds. We also here at Rogue agree with that. It's more interesting to do a workout that changes over time. So does a workout that changes over time have the same benefits or additional benefits, or at least as good as one that is a steady state workout? So that's what they wanted to see, and they did not know of any research yet that existed looking specifically at interval training. So then they come down to their methods. They talk about more details. The people who participated, they looked at training people in their on phase. So that is a question that we get a lot. Is, should I exercise in my on phase? Am I off phase? Does it matter? And really, any exercise is good exercise. What I would say is, for a lot of people, when they exercise in their on state, they are able to push themselves more and get more out of the exercise. But I would certainly say that there are benefits to exercising in your off state as well. So I wouldn't tell someone never to exercise in an off state, but I would say, if possible, exercise in your on state to probably get the most benefit from it. Be able to push yourself the most, get your heart rate up the most. Exercising in an off state is more to improve your functional mobility in an off state. What's interesting, though, is they did test people during their off phase. So they had them do a washout and not take their medication. And so this change in rigidity that they saw is without medication in the system. So that is a good way to measure change in symptoms, is when medication isn't helping those symptoms. The training protocol, the interval training, consisted of 3 one-hour training sessions per week for a total of 24 sessions. So it was 8 weeks long, consisting of the 10-minute warm-up, which was at a slow voluntary speed, 40 minutes of high-intensity interval exercise, and a 10-minute cool down, also at slow voluntary speed. The session's interval part consisted of 8 sets of 5-minute intervals, 3-minute cycling at greater than 60 RPMs, preferably 80 to 90 RPMs, and 2 minutes at less than 60 RPMs. So that's really the split that they gave for kind of fast or slow, was, can you get faster than 60 RPM, working towards that 80 to 90, and then you're going to go slower for 2 minutes of the 5-minute cycle, and then you're going to be below 60 RPMs. Patients were rhythmically cued using a metronome and additional verbal encouragement to pedal at the appropriate speed for the fast or slow phase was provided by an instructor. All the patients complied with instructions, accomplished the whole 8-week interval training program. So this was important to me then. I'm really happy that they included this information. So I wondered, okay, you're asking people to pedal faster or slower than 60 RPMs. You see these beneficial changes. What speed were people actually pedaling? Because we do have members who are able to pedal at 80 to 90 RPMs on the bike. We have some people who are not able to achieve those faster speeds. And, is it still helpful and beneficial? Or is there something really magical about getting to that 80 to 90 RPMs? So what they found were the mean values from 24 training sessions for fast and slow phase were a cadence of 67 RPMs for the faster and 42 for the slower. So the average was not in the 80 to 90 RPM range. People had a goal. They were trying to pedal faster, but they were not necessarily achieving that 80 to 90 RPMs, and they still had significant benefit. They still reduced their symptoms and increased BDNF production. They also looked at power and percent heart rate. Percent heart rate max was 68% versus 62. So again, there is some research out there saying, trying to get your heart rate up to 80 to 85% is beneficial. And it could be true, and especially for certain people, that getting that heart rate up higher is beneficial. But in this case, they were not in a super high intensity. They were in kind of that moderate high intensity zone at 68% and 62. So that's great to see. Yes, we want to be shooting for the stars, but that quote of, shoot for the star, or no, shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars. That's kind of what we see here is we are aiming for those high intensities, both with our heart rate and with our speeds. But even if we don't achieve them, we can still benefit. And that is important to have goals and also to be kind to yourself and not too hard on yourself if you're not necessarily meeting all of those goals. They also asked people to use the Borg RPE, which is the rate of perceived exertion. And it looks like they were using the 6 to 20 scale. And people were working 17 very hard and 13 somewhat hard as they went back and forth. So that RPE is also a valid measurement for your exercise and does correlate with both aerobic intensity and also the RPMs and speeds that they saw here. Additional details of the training protocol and their exercise data are provided elsewhere. That's something I might go look at. But for today, I'm going to scroll down. There is more data here, but at this point, I want to look at the results. So they found that following training, the rigidity decreased by 24%. The sum of the motor components of the UPDRS decreased by 25%. That's huge. That is a really significant change from exercise. The serum BDNF level increased by 34% in PD patients, whereas no change was observed in the healthy control group. So that is very cool to see, significant increase in that BDNF production. Now they get to the discussion where they really try to take these results and make it make sense for the average person. So one thing they highlight is that the tandem cycling, which is from the Albert study, produced beneficial effects on the basal ganglia functioning that are similar to those of anti-Parkinsonian medication. So this type of exercise can have some of the same benefits that medication does. The results of these studies indicate that exercise can potentially induce neuroplastic changes since patients consciously adjusted their activity to set pace and intensity. So being cognitively engaged in the exercise you do and having goals that you're working towards is probably an important component of exercise. Here they talk about interval training induced increase in basal serum brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So it has been reported that physical exercise increases serum BDNF levels in healthy humans and people with Parkinson's. BDNF is a biochemical signal responsible for neuronal protection, survival, and remodeling, axonal and dendritic growth, and synaptogenesis. So this is important for our brain. This is that fertilizer, Gatorade, whatever you want to call it, nutritional support for our brain, and does a lot. So it's kind of, we might hear the term BDNF being thrown around a lot. And sometimes it's like, well, what is that? So it is a biochemical signal responsible for neuronal protection, survival, and remodeling. Axonal and dendritic growth, that is growth within our neurons, and synaptogenesis is increasing synaptic connections between our neurons and our brain. These are all very important for how our brain functions. In the human brain, BDNF is expressed in the hippocampus, claustrum, amygdala, bed nucleus of the stria terminalis. Basically, these are parts of the brain. So it is active in multiple different parts of the brain. They're related to movement, emotions, many different areas that are very important for us. In the PD patients examined here, increased BDNF expression resulting from cycloergometer bike interval training might have stimulated neuroplastic mechanisms that improve the functioning of pathologically altered neuronal networks in the basal ganglia and especially in the dopaminergic nostriatal tract, thereby ameliorating the symptoms of Parkinson's. It's a true tongue twister to read this. So basically they said this exercise produced neuroplastic changes in the brain, which help the symptoms of Parkinson's, which is then going to allow you to exercise better, get more benefit from the exercise, and the sky's the limit in terms of what the potential is. So hopefully you found this. Oh, wait, I have one more thing highlighted. We conclude that the training induced alleviation of Parkinsonian rigidity and decrease in muscle tone may be associated with neuroplastic changes in the central nervous system caused by a training-induced increase in basal serum brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So it's all connected. The exercise we do matters. How we spend our time matters. Setting goals, working hard. Even if you don't meet every single goal, but you're still working harder than you would have worked without that goal, it is still going to benefit you. So I hope you found this article inspiring. I hope you join us for online cardio classes or in-person cardio classes here at our gym. We do intervals. We have fun. We use good music. We go faster. We go slower. We set goals. We try new things. We work hard together. And that's makes a huge difference for all of us. I work harder and exercise better because I'm a part of Rogue, just like I hope our members do. So if you have any questions about this research or our membership, you can give us a call at 714-276-3992 or send me an email at claire@roguept.com. I'll see you next month with another article. Have a great day.